All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to my channel. Welcome to another video where today we're going to be discussing some scriptures in Matthew chapter 13. More specifically, discussing the concept of the wheat and the tares, or the wheat and the weeds. All right. So there's something to be said about that, and I'll get into it. But for now, let's just read. So here is another story Jesus told. The kingdom of heaven is like a farmer who planted good seed in his field. But that night, as everyone slept, his enemy came and planted weeds among the wheat, or tares, right? Weeds, tares. When the crop began to grow and produce grain, the weeds also grew. The farmer's servants came and told him, "Sir, the field where you planted that good seed is full of weeds." "An enemy has done it," the farmer exclaimed. "Shall we pull out the weeds?" This is the New Living Translation, by the way. "Shall we pull out the weeds?" they asked. He replied, "No, you'll hurt the wheat if you do. Let both grow together until the harvest. Then I will tell the harvesters to sort out the weeds and burn them and put the wheat in the barn." Now further down, you've got the wheat and weeds explained. Then, leaving the crowds outside, Jesus went into the house. His disciples said, "Please explain the story of the weeds in the field." "All right," he said, "I, the Son of Man, am the farmer who plants the good seed. The field is the world, and the good seed represents the people of the kingdom. The weeds are the people who belong to the evil one. The enemy who planted the weeds among the wheat is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the harvesters are the angels. Just as the weeds are separated out and burned, so it will be at the end of the world. I, the Son of Man, will send my angels, and they will remove from my kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. And they will throw them into the furnace and burn them. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the godly will shine like the sun in their Father's kingdom." Anyone who is willing to hear should listen and understand. So, a couple things to remind some people of. The Son of Man, Christ, is the truth, is the light, the seed, the word. Okay, so here's the thing about truth. Truth is divisive. It is divisive in nature. Why? Because amongst those in nature, there are the truthers and there are the liars. And the truth is what separates the truthers from the liars, the lovers from the haters. That is what separates those two components. Okay? And so there's an important lesson to be learned from that. First and foremost, you can't be somebody that you're not. You can't be something you are not. That is like saying that 1 can be 0 and 0 can be 1. Logically doesn't follow. Lovingly doesn't follow either. So, with that being said, there is a false self that most people refer to as an ego, and then there is a true self. There's the false ego, there's the true ego, or the true self, right? And ultimately, what each individual person is supposed to do is find out who this is for them, right? They have to do some actual soul searching. They have to look beyond just what is on the surface. Because at first glance, you might just find out that, or you might just think that, oh, like, well, who I'm being right now is who I actually am, and that's probably not the case. And I mean, I've been there. I've been that person who isn't what I am, or wasn't being what I am. You know, it's called being an alcoholic. You know, chasing after materialistic gains, when I already understand that the materialistic gains aren't what's going to make me happy. When it's understanding and knowing the truth about something and deeper connection with not only myself but my friends, my family, nature itself, when it's those things that'll actually lead me to happiness, chasing things other than those, like they're going to lead me to happiness, that's being somebody that I'm not. So here's the takeaway from that. When you are actually your true self, when you are being who you truly are, as in the true self, right? Being selfless and at the same time still having your true personality, your true ego, you know, the true persona that you were granted, the true self that you were granted by our Creator. When you are that person, it will separate from your life those who do not belong. And sometimes that means your own family. And that's what makes it kind of rough when following truth, is when you chase after truth, when you're looking for truth, you're seeking truth, you're finding it, you're speaking it, when you're being honest in all of your affairs, it's going to separate from you those who don't belong in your life. And sometimes it's hard to let go of those people. And sometimes those people cling on to you and they like to drag you back down. And I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. Again, I've been there. I didn't want to let people move on with their lives. I've clung on to people that I shouldn't have clung on to. And it just happens like that sometimes. Sometimes the foolish man has to continue in his folly to become wise. But point being, when you be your true self, something great happens. It separates those who aren't meant to be in your life from being in your direct life. And it doesn't mean that you can't help them out, right? That's kind of the thing. You're trying to be selfless. You're trying to be helpful and useful, not only to yourself, but to your fellow man. But it is better to live the truth of who you truly are. And I'm not saying this programmed version of yourself, but the true version of who you are. It is better to live the truth and have that truth separate from you that which is false than it is to live a lie. If you are living a lie, if you are not being who you truly are, you are acting, right? And what is the defining characteristic of an actor? They're acting. It's not who they truly are. They're lying, right? And in that lying, by embracing that lie, it leads one into a state of slavery. As we've talked about before, when one embraces, or when one looks at or looks for love, it leads to truth, which then leads to freedom, right? And this is the triangle of unity. And then when one hates themselves, ultimately what ends up happening is or even if they're being selfishly loving, they end up embracing a lie, right? So this would be truth and freedom. I shouldn't even put hearts right there. Ultimately, it's kind of a weird notion, but so you got love, truth, and freedom. And then down here, you've got hatred, which leads to lies, which leads to slavery or bondage. So, when one chooses to express hatred and embrace lies, it leads them to a state of slavery. By living a lie, by not being who you truly are, it leads you to a state of slavery, where you are enslaved by not only that lie, but the world around you. So, be who you truly are. Truly. Like down at the very or not down at the very surface, down at the very core, right? The seed, the word, the light. At the core of your being is the truth of who you are. And if that happens to be a wolf, be the wolf. If that happens to be a sheep, be the sheep. You can't be somebody you're not. I mean, it warns against, or it warns about wolves in sheep's clothing, but I'd also equally warn about sheep's in wolves' clothing. Those who walk around as if they're big and bad, and ultimately deep down at the core of their being, they're nothing more than a sheep, and they're scared. You know, I guess I shouldn't even say warn about those people, either one. What I would say is keep an eye out for them. I mean, just look, pay attention more than anything. Pay attention to what's going on around you. If you pay attention, you'll see these things. You'll see people who, though they act like they understand what's going on, they put on a mask, they actually don't know what's going on, and sometimes even I find myself in that situation because some of that old part of me that has been programmed to be hateful and super reactive to the world around me, like hyper reactive, some of that is still in there and comes up, and it never truly goes away because I have those memories of who I was, say, 20 years ago, and I can never fully delete them. Sometimes that stuff comes back up, especially when you start say doing step work, and you're actually revisiting some of those memories and looking at your part in things and how they've played a part, how they played a role in your development as a human being or as a spirit in this human vessel. As you look at those things, that old part of yourself, that old ego will pop up. And ultimately, it's not about killing off that programmed version. It's about reprogramming, right? It's about undoing the programming that has been done. And I know it seems contradictory, but it's not killing that version of yourself, because that version of yourself is still part of you, but it's putting that part behind in the past. It's no longer who you are now. It doesn't have to define who you are now. And ultimately, at the same time, at the very beginning of your life, at your very conception, as soon as that sperm fertilized that egg and the two things became one flesh, and they twain became one flesh, that individual is what you're trying to bring forward. That ultimate seed of life at the very beginning of your life is what you're trying to bring forward. But at the same time, it's important to understand that if that individual happens to be a wolf, I mean, a wolf can't be a sheep any more than a sheep can be a wolf. They could put on a mask all they wish, but no matter how fancy the clothing, No matter how fancily they speak, a wolf will always be a wolf, a sheep will always be a sheep. So, be yourself, and in that you will find your liberation. In that you will find out who you truly are. Be yourself, you'll find out exactly where you need to be. And if you fail to do that, then you're ultimately choosing your own slavery at that point, and choosing to die because you're scared to be yourself. Which, hey, if that's what you want to do, then fine. I feel sorry for you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, like Phil Anselmo says in their song "Walk," be yourself by yourself. Stay away from me. You can't be something you're not. So, be who you truly are, and not this not this programmed version of yourself. And don't think that because you like something that means that's part of you. Like just because, like, say someone may like to drink alcohol doesn't mean that they have to identify with that kind of label as I'm a person who drinks alcohol, right? Doesn't mean that you have to constantly drink alcohol. If you are a person who genuinely cares about your health but still likes to party, hey, make your own choices. But again, at the end of the day, you can't be somebody that you're not. Be your true self. Quit being an actor. Kind of like how Kanye West said that we're all paid actor or unpaid actors. Same concept. Stop acting. Stop playing a role in some sort of play and be yourself. Be real. Be who you truly are. And I promise you, it's something that's it's rewarding in its own kind of way. Maybe not in the monetary sense, like, putting yourself ahead in life. But that's the thing, when you stop caring about financial opportunities like that, when you stop caring so much about getting ahead of others in life and more so just being a better version of yourself and actually being who you truly are, and letting life kind of guide you in the right direction, it's got its own rewards. So, anyways, peace.